Let me ask you something important. Why do toxic people feel powerful around you, but weak around others? Have you noticed? They test you, provoke you, drain you, yet somehow walk away untouched. What if I told you? The problem is not their toxicity, but the way your energy answers their behavior. And once you learn how to stand correctly within yourself, they will lose access to you without a single argument. In 2026, disrespect will not always be loud. It will come disguised as jokes, silence, pressure, guilt, and manipulation. Toxic people do not attack your body. They attack your boundary, your attention, your emotional balance. Today, I will show you how to respect yourself in front of toxic people. Not by reacting, not by proving, but by mastering your inner position. If you apply what I share today, toxic people will no longer disturb your peace because they will no longer find a place to stand within you. 1. Toxic people test boundaries, not strength. Every toxic person you encounter carries a map that charts where your boundaries are soft, where your attention is scattered, and where your patience is shallow. They are not interested in testing your physical strength, nor are they concerned with your intellect. Their true aim is to probe, to feel the edges of your self-respect. Imagine a storm. The wind does not strike a mountain at random. It seeks the cliffs, the cracks, the vulnerable soil where the rock may crumble. Toxic people behave the same way. They probe for the weak places in your mind and your energy. Every sarcastic remark, every manipulative silence, every subtle criticism, all of it is an experiment. The first thing to understand is this: testing boundaries is not an attack on your value, but an invitation to awaken it. The question they ask is silent, but it echoes within your being. Will you allow yourself to be shifted? Will you surrender your center for my storm? Many people respond to this storm in one of two ways. They either fight back, reacting with the same intensity, or they collapse, withdrawing into shame or guilt. Both responses are predictable. Both responses feed the storm. True power emerges when you understand that boundaries are not walls built to keep people out. Boundaries are an internal landscape defined by clarity, calmness, and presence. They are not declared with shouting or confrontation. They are declared by how you inhabit yourself. When your energy is firm, even the most provocative behavior cannot penetrate you. You begin to notice something remarkable. The toxic person is no longer testing your strength. They are testing whether you have sovereignty over yourself, and sovereignty is invisible to the eye. It cannot be argued with. It cannot be bargained. It is known quietly by your calm posture, your deliberate pauses, your absence of unnecessary reaction. When you recognize this, the storm loses its thrill. The toxic person may continue their experiments, but the energy that once fueled them now returns to silence. You begin to see them for what they truly are. Not invincible, not superior, not frightening, simply lost in their own turbulence. Every interaction becomes a mirror. Every provocation becomes an invitation to measure the depth of your own presence. And here is the paradox. The more they test, the more you anchor yourself. The more they push, the more they reveal where you do not belong in their world. And when the storm seems relentless, there is a subtle truth. The test is not external, it is internal. The moment you accept that their attempts to destabilize you are nothing more than reflections of their own insecurity, a new clarity emerges. You are not here to destroy them. You are not here to control them. You are here to witness your own strength and let it guide your responses. The boundaries you cultivate now are not temporary shields, but permanent gestures of self-respect. And as you feel this energy solidify within, a question arises quietly, almost unnoticed. How does one extend respect outward without surrendering inner authority? This is where the rhythm shifts, where presence becomes language itself, where calmness becomes armor. And it leads seamlessly into the next truth. Respect begins with internal posture, not words. 2. Respect begins with internal posture, not words. Many people believe respect is something earned through speaking, through persuasion, or through the clever arrangement of words. They raise their voices, they defend their position, they craft arguments meant to convince the other person. But this is a surface-level illusion. True respect does not emerge from what you say. It emerges from how you inhabit yourself, your posture, your energy, the quietness of your mind. These communicate respect before any word is spoken. It is a language older than speech, deeper than intellect. When you step into a room with calm authority, toxic people feel it immediately. Their usual leverage falters. Their manipulations, which depend on your distraction, fail. Internal posture is not arrogance. It is not rigidity. It is the fluid certainty of a river flowing through a canyon. It bends, it shifts, it remains alive, yet it does not lose its direction. When you cultivate this posture, you do not need to argue, explain, or defend. Your presence alone conveys the message. I belong here. I am anchored. I am not available for your disturbance. This posture is rooted in deep self-awareness. You feel the pull of ego, the tug of impatience, the instinct to react. And yet you do not give it fuel. You breathe into the space between stimulus and response. You allow silence to speak. And in that silence, you claim power. The toxic person, accustomed to triggering reactions, notices the difference. They see that their usual tactics, guilt, criticism, sarcasm, mockery, are absorbed without movement, without tension, without chaos. And they begin to sense that something unshakable exists within you. Internal posture also teaches patience. It allows you to wait, to observe, to respond only when appropriate. You realize that some battles are not meant to be fought. Some provocations are not meant to be answered. Respect begins within. And when it is cultivated, it radiates outward like a quiet sun that warms without burning. And yet, there is a subtle danger here. If you misinterpret this internal posture as passivity, Ao may allow repeated violations. Posture alone is not enough. It must be coupled with discernment. The ability to recognize when boundaries need reinforcement, when energy must be redirected, when silence alone cannot suffice. And as this realization deepens, the mind asks another question. If respect begins internally, how do you convey it outwardly without falling into reaction or compromise? The answer emerges in a simple yet profound truth. Calm presence itself is a form of dominance. Presence without aggression, authority without words, integrity without confrontation. And when you feel this energy, you understand the next principle. Silence can be dominance when it is grounded. Silence can be dominance when it is grounded. Silence is often misunderstood. Many believe that silence is weakness, submission, or avoidance. They fear the pause, the absence of words, the stillness of presence. But true silence is a form of power that speaks louder than any argument. Grounded silence is not empty. It is dense with awareness, thick with unshakable calm, and charged with intentionality. When you are silent in the face of provocation, you are not retreating. You are holding space, a space where their attempts to control or manipulate cannot take root. Toxic people rely on your noise, your defensiveness, your explanations, your justifications to maintain their illusion of dominance. Remove the noise. Anchor yourself. Let the silence stretch like a mountain between their storm and your mind. In that space, they feel exposed. They feel powerless. And without a single word, you establish authority. Grounded silence is different from avoidance. Avoidance is fear. Avoidance is energy scattered. Grounded silence is deliberate. You breathe. You feel your center. You allow the world to move around you while your own presence remains constant. The paradox is beautiful. In silence, you communicate more than words ever could. You say, I see you, I hear you, I am not threatened. You do not control me. And this statement, unspoken, resonates deeper than any verbal confrontation. Yet silence alone is not passive. It carries rhythm. It carries timing. It is active observation. You notice patterns, energy shifts, and manipulations. You learn where their storm begins and where it ends. You learn when a word is needed, when a boundary must be reinforced, and when stillness is the sharpest response. The mastery of silence transforms your interactions. Toxic people may still speak, may still provoke, may still attempt to unsettle you, but their efforts become predictable. You respond from presence, not reaction. And as you do, you realize another subtle truth. Dominance is not about overpowering others, but about never being overpowered. And with this truth in mind, a quiet tension arises in your awareness, a question that pulls the mind deeper. If silence can be dominance, how do you combine this with presence, posture, and boundaries to create a life toxic energy cannot disturb your peace? The answer waits, patient and luminous, just beyond perception, as the mind prepares to enter the next layer of understanding. 4. Emotional control is the highest form of self-respect. Emotions are the currency of human interaction. Subtle yet potent, they can flow like water, nourishing your connections, or flood like a storm, washing away your calm. Toxic people understand this deeply. They know that a single spike of anger, fear, or defensiveness is enough to open a door, to pull you from your center, to make you respond in ways that serve their agenda. True mastery begins with noticing the first stirrings of emotion. Before you speak, before you react, before the mind labels the situation as urgent, there is a pause, a quiet instant where the choice lies, to surrender to the pull or to anchor in presence. Emotional control is not suppression. It is awareness. It is acknowledgement. It is measured release. Imagine a fire contained within a bell jar. The flames are alive, but they do not escape to consume the room. This is the art of emotional control. You feel fully, deeply, without letting the feeling dictate action. The toxic person may continue to provoke, to manipulate, to unsettle. Yet each provocation is met with stillness. Each attempt to pull you into reaction dissolves against the wall of your calm awareness. Emotional control also carries discernment. It allows you to see the patterns hidden behind irritation, aggression, and judgment. You begin to recognize that toxicity is rarely about you. It is about unmet needs, fear, and insecurity projected outward. Once this understanding settles, the impulse to retaliate loses power. The storm continues, but it no longer dictates the movements of your own mind. Here, self-respect reveals itself in its most profound form. When your emotions are your own, untangled from the chaos of external manipulation, no one can invade your inner authority. You begin to notice the paradox. The more you control your response, the more others respect you, even when they do not consciously recognize it. Emotional control is the lens through which every interaction is clarified. Without it, boundaries are brittle, silence is empty, and posture becomes fragile. With it, words become measured, actions deliberate, and presence unassailable. But this is only one layer. Emotional control is the foundation, yet it must be paired with another truth, one that carries the energy outward, teaching without confrontation, guiding without force. You teach people how to treat you without speaking. 5. You teach people how to treat you without speaking. Every interaction, every glance, every pause is a lesson. The energy you project communicates louder than arguments, explanations, or reprimands. In the presence of calm, grounded authority, toxic people instinctively test the waters, and their reaction to your posture teaches them what is acceptable and what is not. Consider this. A child learns boundaries not only from words, but from the consistency of a parent's presence. A simple gaze, a steady tone, or a firm hand on the shoulder communicates more than a long lecture. Similarly, adults mirror the energy you project. They absorb the nonverbal cues of self-respect and adjust their behavior accordingly. Teaching without speaking is an art of presence. It requires alignment between thought, energy, and posture. There is no bluffing. The moment your internal state is inconsistent, it is immediately detected. Toxic people, with their finely tuned radar for insecurity, sense weakness instantly. But when your internal landscape is coherent, your teaching is effortless. This teaching is not coercive. It does not demand obedience or submission. It simply reflects truth. You project clarity, boundaries, and calm, and others respond. Some resist, some adjust, some leave. Each reaction is informative. Each interaction becomes a feedback loop for your continued presence. Power of teaching through being rather than speaking lies in its subtlety. It bypasses ego, bypasses argument, bypasses struggle. Toxic people are often accustomed to debate, drama, and distraction. They thrive on noise. By embodying quiet authority, you remove their playground. You become the example of a person who cannot be unsettled. This understanding, however, leads to another realization. The ability to teach without speaking depends on a deeper layer of discipline. The ability to resist the instinct to react, to manipulate, or to overengage. And here emerges the next subtle truth. Reactivity is an invitation to manipulation. Reactivity is an invitation to manipulation. Reactivity is the hook on which toxic people catch their prey. Every impulse to defend, explain, argue, or justify is a door opened in your energy field. Each time you respond from a place of emotional agitation, the toxic person finds fuel. They feed on the spike in your energy, using it to reinforce their dominance, their control. Their sense of power, recognizing this, is the first step toward liberation. Reactivity is not weakness. It is instinct, conditioned response. A habit formed from years of conditioning. Yet in the presence of awareness, it becomes visible. You can see the trigger before it propels action. You can pause, breathe, and reclaim choice. Manipulation thrives on distraction. When your mind is racing, your words defensive, your body tense, you are no longer fully present. Your attention becomes scattered, and the toxic person finds leverage in what they can no longer see in themselves. Chaos. The antidote is deliberate stillness. The choice to respond only after reflection. The decision to let energy pass through you without being caught. This does not mean passivity. It does not mean submission. It is a higher form of engagement where you participate from sovereignty rather than compulsion. When reactivity is replaced by presence, toxic strategies lose efficacy. There are manipulations, once effective, become visible for what they are. You learn to navigate interactions with clarity, to respond with intention, and to maintain energy alignment. Others may attempt to provoke, but your internal authority acts as a buffer. Their attempts cannot alter your state. Reactivity also teaches humility. It reminds you that power is not in domination, argument, or control, but in awareness, restraint, and intentionality. And as this realization settles, you notice a pattern emerging. The very energy you withhold from reaction becomes the magnet that draws respect, stability, and even curiosity from others. And here, just at the edge of perception, another insight arises, a question poised for deeper understanding. If reactivity invites manipulation, what practices allow a mind to remain unshakable, even when provoked repeatedly? The answer emerges slowly, as all wisdom does, in the quiet moments between thought and observation, leading the mind naturally toward the next layer of mastery. Calm presence dissolving toxic intent. 7. Calm presence dissolves toxic intent. Calmness is often mistaken for passivity. People see stillness and assume weakness, absence of action, emptiness. But calm presence is the quiet engine of authority. It does not bend. It does not flee. It does not react to provocation. It simply exists, fully aware, fully anchored, fully unshakable. Toxic people thrive on chaos. They feed on the energy that spikes, the attention that is pulled, the panic that arises. But when you meet their intent with grounded calm, the energy they once counted on evaporates. Their storm finds no purchase. Their fire has nothing to ignite. Calm presence is not learned overnight. It is cultivated through discipline, through reflection, through the deliberate practice of observing without reaction. You notice your breath, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the tension in your body. You anchor in these subtle cues, in the simple awareness that your internal environment is yours alone. The profound truth is this: when your inner state is stable, outer turbulence cannot penetrate. Words lose their sting, insults fall flat, Manipulation collapses under its own weight. You may speak, but you do so without urgency. You may act, but each movement is deliberate, aligned with your own principle. Rather than provoked by another's chaos, calm presence is magnetic. Others feel it. Toxic people sense it and become disoriented. They no longer recognize the patterns that once controlled their interactions. Their usual tactics, sarcasm, guilt, silent treatment, become ineffective. And in this silence, you hold the invisible power. This is not arrogance. It is not dominance imposed. It is alignment, clarity, and energy intact. It allows you to navigate any interaction without diminishing yourself, without surrendering, without compromising your peace. And yet, calm presence alone is not a shield if your boundaries are weak. The energy that holds LDSU steady must also know where it begins and where it ends. If it flows without limit, you may unknowingly allow intrusion. Here, the next understanding rises naturally. Detachment is not weakness, it is clarity. 8. Detachment is not weakness, it is clarity. Detachment is a misunderstood concept. Many equate it with coldness, indifference, or disengagement. But true detachment is neither rejection nor avoidance. It is clarity about what belongs to you and what does not. It is the art of observing without taking on the weight of another's turbulence. Toxic people thrive when you are entangled, emotionally, mentally, or energetically. They rely on your involvement to sustain their influence. Detachment does not mean you stop noticing. It does not mean you stop responding when necessary. It means you respond from a place of choice rather than compulsion. Consider water flowing around a stone. The water does not attack the rock, nor does it cling to it. It moves, adapts, and continues its course, fully aware of the obstacle, but not consumed by it. This is the energy of detachment. You are present, yet not consumed. You are aware, yet not manipulated. Detachment brings clarity. You begin to see the distinction between what requires engagement and what is distraction. You observe patterns without being trapped in them. You honor boundaries without aggression. You allow toxic behavior to exist without giving it authority over your state. There is a quiet power in detachment. Others may misinterpret it at first. They may see lack of reaction as weakness, but with time, they realize that the person before them is not weak, but immovable in essence. Toxic intent cannot anchor itself in a mind and body that are detached, yet aware, and yet detachment is not a solitary fortress. It is an active clarity that guides interaction. It prepares you for the next layer of inner power. Boundaries are energetic before they are verbal. 9. Boundaries are energetic before they are verbal. Boundaries are often thought of as words, rules, or instructions. Do not speak to me like that. I will not tolerate this. Respect my time. These are important, but they are the visible expression of something far deeper. Before words exist, boundaries live in energy. Energetic boundaries are sensed before they are heard. They are communicated through posture, through presence, through the rhythm of breath and alignment of self. Toxic people, unconsciously skilled in reading energy, detect these boundaries immediately. When your energy says, I do not belong to your chaos, words become almost unnecessary. Energetic boundaries are rooted in self-respect. They are the invisible wall that defines the edges of your mind, body, and attention. They are steady, non-negotiable, unshakable. When fully expressed, toxic intent loses power before it is even attempted. The subtle shifts in your energy field, calmness, grounded posture, detachment, serve as signals that your space CA not be invaded. These boundaries also act as a teaching tool. Others learn how to approach, how to behave, what is acceptable and what is not, without a single confrontation. Boundaries become a living lesson. Every gesture, every pause, every breath communicates the rules of engagement before. They are ever spoken. Energetic boundaries are flexible yet unyielding. They adjust with awareness, but they do not bend to provocation. They allow presence without chaos, observation without entanglement, and interaction without intrusion. The power of energetic boundaries is subtle yet profound. Toxic people may attempt strategies that once succeeded but now fail. They are met with an invisible wall of energy that aligns with calm presence, detachment, and internal posture. Their attempts to manipulate or provoke become ineffective. And here, at the edge of awareness, another insight arises, a silent question that pulls the mind deeper. If boundaries are energetic first, how do words, action, and decisions reinforce this energy in daily life? The answer emerges slowly in the rhythm of breath and observation, leading the mind naturally toward the next step of mastery. Self-respect expressed not only inwardly, but outwardly, in every interaction. 10. Self-respect means you stop explaining yourself. Explanation is one of the subtle traps that binds us to the energy of others. From the earliest moments, we are taught that clarity requires justification, that peace requires defense, that self-respect is proven by argument. But in truth, every explanation is a doorway through which another may influence, manipulate, or shift your internal state. When you truly respect yourself, you recognize the futility of endless justification. Toxic people feed on your need to be understood. They seek the energy that pours from your efforts to convince, to clarify, to persuade. Every word spoken in defense is energy released into their sphere. Every attempt to explain is a thread connecting you to chaos that does not belong to you. To stop explaining yourself is to reclaim sovereignty. It is to inhabit a space where your choices, your values, and your presence exist independently of approval or understanding. Silence, in this context, is not avoidance. It is authority. Words no longer define your value. Presence does. Boundaries do. Energy does. Self-respect manifests here as an internal law. You act according to your principles, speak according to necessity, and respond according to discernment, not according to demand or expectation. The mind may object, whispering, "If I do not explain, they will misunderstand me." Yet every attempt to convince is a weakening of the internal fortress. Peace requires alignment, not negotiation. The power of not explaining oneself is subtle. It cannot be taught in a lecture. It cannot be captured in debate. It is revealed in the energy of someone who moves through the world unshaken, whose calm is not contingent on agreement, whose authority is inherent, unspoken, unassailable. When you stop explaining, others notice, even if they do not consciously understand. Toxic people, expecting reaction, defense, or apology, are met with nothing but clarity. Their tactics fail because your energy does not yield. You become a mirror of your own internal alignment, reflecting an invulnerability that cannot be argued against. Yet this practice is not without challenge. Mind may crave validation, fear judgment, or replay every interaction seeking reassurance. To sustain self-respect requires inner observation, patience, and persistent awareness. You do not react to this internal pull with guilt or urgency. You observe it, note it, and return to the quiet authority of presence. And as this internal mastery deepens, another realization arises. The fewer explanations you give, the more invisible threads of control you sever. Every withheld justification is a reclaiming of space, a deepening of calm, a strengthening of internal posture. And here, an unspoken truth emerges. Reaction, even internal, is still connection, which brings us naturally to the next layer. Some battles are not meant to be fought. Some provocations are not meant to be answered. And this is the gateway to the next understanding. Not every battle deserves your nervous system. 11. Not every battle deserves your nervous system. The human nervous system is delicate, finely tuned, and constantly responding to stimuli. Every insult, provocation, or manipulative gesture creates a cascade of internal reactions: tension in muscles, constriction in the chest, a spike of cortisol, a racing mind. Toxic people, whether consciously or unconsciously, exploit this. They rely on your nervous energy to validate their power. The first step in reclaiming self-respect is awareness. Observe how your body responds to triggers. Notice the tension, the rise of heat, the impulse to react. This is the nervous system signaling that energy is being captured. This is the moment where sovereignty can either be surrendered or asserted. Not every conflict requires engagement. Not every argument requires participation. Not every insult requires defense. The key is discernment, a quiet, deeply grounded observation of the situation and of your internal state. You ask yourself, silently, does this require my energy, or is it simply an attempt to provoke? Many people fall into the trap of believing that giving attention equals justice, that reacting proves worth, that arguing demonstrates strength. But strength is not proven in engagement with chaos. Strength is proven in energy preservation, in the conscious choice of which battles are worthy of response and which are illusions meant to scatter your presence. This practice is meditative. It requires patience and repeated self-observation. It requires slowing the mind and breathing into the space between stimulus and reaction. When practiced consistently, the nervous system becomes an ally, no longer a hostage. You respond intentionally, not reflexively. You act from sovereignty, not impulse, and here, a subtle transformation occurs. By refusing to expend energy on battles that do not serve you, you become invisible to manipulation. Toxic intent encounters no friction. Provocation meets a calm mirror. Insults fall away like leaves from a tree in winter. The energy you save reinforces boundaries, presence, and emotional control. This understanding also reshapes your perspective on relationships. You no longer feel compelled to defend every action, justify every choice, or satisfy every expectation. You see clearly who is aligned with your energy and who is not. You allow others their path while maintaining your own clarity and calm. And yet, the practice is active, not passive. It requires inner discipline, awareness, and courage to consistently withhold unnecessary engagement. NT is to anchor power quietly, without external recognition. This is the gateway to a higher form of self-respect. Toxic people seek access, not connection. The moment you conserve your energy and resist reaction, you begin to notice the pattern of intent behind every provocation. This awareness leads naturally to understanding the subtle truth. What others seek from you is rarely connection, it is access. And once this is recognized, the landscape of interaction changes entirely. 12. Toxic people seek access, not connection. Many are fooled into believing that toxic individuals are searching for friendship, understanding, or mutual growth. They are not. Toxic people are seeking access to your energy, your time, your attention, your vulnerabilities. They do not wish to connect. They wish to enter your inner space without invitation, to manipulate, to unsettle, to claim influence over your state of being. Understanding this truth is liberating. When you see clearly that access, not connection, is their goal, the patterns of manipulation become visible. Every demand, every criticism, every subtle provocation is a probing attempt, a test to see how far they can extend their reach into your life. They are looking for openings, for cracks, for moments when you're calm, your boundary, or your clarity is compromised. This awareness allows a shift in strategy. If the intent is connection, there is an opportunity for empathy, dialogue, and shared understanding. If the intent is access, engagement is optional. Energy becomes a currency carefully guarded, rather than freely given. You begin to see that not every interaction requires full participation. Some engagements are mirrors to be observed, not invitations to be pulled into. When toxic people encounter someone who does not grant access, something profound occurs. There are usual methods of manipulation, guilt, provocation, anger, or silent withdrawal become ineffective. Their energy, which relied on creating reactions, encounters nothing but calm presence. They find themselves reflected in their own strategies, unable to penetrate the inner fortress that has been quietly established. Access is what they seek because control is their currency. By recognizing that their goal is not mutual growth but leverage, you reclaim the space that would otherwise be surrendered. This understanding is the first step toward mastery over the subtle invasions of energy that define toxic encounters. And yet, it is not enough to simply deny access. One must also cultivate the ability to discern when engagement is necessary and when withdrawal is the act of greatest self-respect. This leads to a subtle, almost imperceptible form of wisdom. The moment you withhold energy from access seekers, You begin to see the distinction between what deserves your attention and what does not. Here, the mind opens to the next layer of understanding. Not all provocations are meant to be answered, and not all challenges are yours to conquer. Why? This naturally transitions into the next principle. The moment you stop chasing fairness, you gain power. 13. The moment you stop chasing fairness, you gain power. Fairness is a concept many hold as sacred, yet it is one of the most subtle traps for energy. To chase fairness is to place your inner state in the hands of external forces, to seek validation from the very people whose intent is access, not mutual respect. Toxic individuals thrive on this pursuit. They rely on your need for acknowledgement, your desire for justice, your compulsion to correct imbalance. True power emerges the moment you relinquish this pursuit. When you no longer demand fairness from those who cannot provide it, you reclaim authority over your energy. You no longer give away your calm in the effort to correct, to argue, or to convince. The inner fortress of self-respect becomes unshakable because it is not dependent on external judgment. This is not passivity, nor is it moral resignation. It is the deliberate cultivation of inner clarity. You recognize that fairness is not a universal law enforced by others. It is a personal principle aligned with your own integrity. You maintain your standards, your boundaries, and your principles without demanding compliance or acknowledgement from those whose intent is not aligned. By letting go of the chase for fairness, the energy that once fueled frustration, resentment, and reaction is transformed into presence, awareness, and unshakable calm. The nervous system relaxes, boundaries solidify, and clarity becomes your constant companion. You operate from sovereignty, not from the illusion of influence over those whose actions are beyond your control. The paradox is profound. The moment you stop striving for fairness externally, your internal equilibrium shifts. You realize that power is not in enforcing rules, correcting wrongs, or convincing others of their missteps. Power is in energy preservation, in calm observation, in the deliberate choice of engagement. Toxic people, accustomed to reactions, find this presence disorienting. They are faced with someone who operates independently of their attempts to provoke or control. Their usual leverage collapses. Their access is denied not with aggression, but with quiet, deliberate alignment. This principle also reshapes the perception of conflict itself. You no longer see every slight as a battle to be won. You no longer expend energy attempting to create fairness in a system that does not recognize it. Instead, you focus on maintaining the integrity of your own mind, body, and energy, and here, the mind begins to perceive a deeper truth. Once fairness is no longer the goal, every interaction transforms into a choice of energy exchange. You can discern what to engage with, what to observe, and what to release. This discernment is the gateway to the next layer of mastery. Inner discipline creates outer authority. The moment fairness is released as a need, authority is no longer externalized. It becomes a force that radiates quietly, invisibly, yet powerfully, shaping interactions without force, without struggle, without compromise. And in this subtle alignment, the foundation for true self-respect and sovereignty is firmly established, preparing the ground for the mastery of personal energy in all remaining interactions. 14. Inner discipline creates outer authority. Inner discipline is not visible at first glance. It does not announce itself. It does not seek recognition. It grows quietly, in moments where no one is watching, in decisions where comfort is sacrificed for alignment. This discipline is the root from which true authority emerges. Without it, authority becomes performance. With it, authority becomes presence. Inner discipline begins with self-observation. You notice the impulses that arise when you are challenged. The urge to speak quickly, the desire to defend, the temptation to prove your worth. Discipline is not the elimination of these impulses, but the mastery of them. You allow them to arise, you acknowledge them, and then you choose whether they deserve action. In this choice, authority is formed. Outer authority is often misunderstood as dominance, control, or loudness. But real authority is quiet. It is felt rather than heard. It comes from consistency between thought, emotion, and action. When your inner world is ordered, your outer world responds naturally. People sense when your actions are not reactive but deliberate. They feel the weight of your calm decisions. Discipline is built through repetition, choosing stillness over reaction, choosing silence over argument, choosing clarity over chaos. Each time you act in alignment with your principles, you strengthen the internal structure that holds you steady. Over time, this structure becomes unshakable. Toxic behavior no longer disturbs you because it cannot penetrate a disciplined mind. This discipline also refines your perception. You begin to see when engagement is necessary and when it is wasteful. You understand that not every challenge requires response. Authority grows when you conserve your energy and direct it intentionally. You no longer scatter yourself across conflicts that offer no growth. Outer authority is the natural byproduct of this internal order. Others may not understand why they respect you. They may not agree with you, yet they feel the boundary. They sense the stability. They recognize that you cannot be easily influenced, manipulated, or provoked. This recognition is not demanded. It is earned through discipline. Inner discipline also teaches patience. You no longer rush to correct, to dominate, or to control. You trust the process of alignment. You understand that authority does not need to announce itself. It reveals itself through consistency over time, through calm responses, through unwavering presence. And as this authority solidifies, a subtle realization emerges. You no longer feel the need to correct others. You no longer feel responsible for fixing their behavior. Discipline brings clarity, and clarity reveals a deeper truth. Growth is not imposed, it is embodied. This realization opens the doorway to the next understanding. When discipline anchors you deeply within yourself, you discover that transformation does not happen through confrontation. It happens through distance, elevation, and evolution. And this leads directly to the next truth. You do not correct toxic people. You outgrow them. 15. You do not correct toxic people. You outgrow them. Correction assumes equality of intention. It assumes the other person is willing to see, to reflect, to change. Toxic behavior rarely meets this assumption. To attempt correction is to enter their terrain, to accept their rules, to invest energy where it will not return. Outgrowing, however, is an entirely different movement. It is upward, it is inward, it is silent. Outgrowing does not require explanation. It does not require agreement. It happens when your internal standards rise beyond the environment that once constrained you. You no longer resonate with manipulation, chaos, or disrespect, not because you fight it, but because you no longer match its frequency. When you outgrow someone, the dynamic changes without confrontation. Conversations feel different. Reactions soften. Distance appears naturally. Toxic people may feel this shift, but they cannot name it. They may attempt to pull you back into old patterns, yet their efforts feel distant, ineffective, irrelevant. Outgrowing requires courage. It requires releasing the need to be understood by those who cannot understand you. It requires accepting that not every relationship is meant to evolve alongside you. Some are lessons. Some are mirrors. Some are thresholds you pass through on your way to deeper alignment. This process is not driven by resentment. It is driven by clarity. You do not rise above others in superiority. You rise beyond situations that no longer serve your growth. This distinction preserves humility while maintaining strength. You do not judge. You simply move. As you outgrow toxic dynamics, your energy becomes lighter. Your nervous system settles. Your presence expands. You invest your time and attention where there is mutual respect, shared growth, and calm understanding. Authority deepens because it's no longer reactive. It is selective. Outgrowing also teaches trust in yourself. You trust your inner signals. You trust your boundaries. You trust that distance can be an act of compassion, both for yourself and for others. You allow people to remain where they are without dragging them forward or holding yourself back. This is the quiet power of evolution. No announcement, no confrontation, just movement. And in this movement, something profound occurs. The space you leave behind becomes the space in which your true life unfolds. As you outgrow toxicity, discipline transforms into freedom, authority transforms into peace, and self-respect becomes your natural state. And with this realization, the path ahead becomes clear, guiding you toward the final understanding, where consistency, peace, and mastery define every interaction. The journey does not end here. It deepens, because once you have outgrown what no longer serves you, the final truth waits patiently ahead. Respect is maintained by consistency, not intensity. 16. Respect is maintained by consistency, not intensity. Respect is not built in moments of dramatic assertion. It is not created through emotional speeches, sudden confrontations, or rare displays of force. These moments may draw attention, but attention is not respect. True respect is quieter, slower, and far more demanding. It is maintained through consistency, the repeated alignment between who you are, what you tolerate, and how you respond over time. Intensity is tempting when pushed. Many feel the urge to assert themselves loudly, to draw a sharp line, to make a point that cannot be ignored. But intensity fights. It burns hot and then disappears. Consistency, however, reshapes the environment. It teaches others what to expect from you. And in that predictability, respect takes root. Consistency begins internally. It requires that your values are not negotiable based on mood, fatigue, or external pressure. When your boundaries fluctuate, others test them. When your standards change with circumstance, others adapt their behavior accordingly. But when your inner posture remains steady, people quickly learn that access to you requires alignment. This steadiness does not demand explanation. It does not require confrontation. It is revealed in small, repeated actions, the way you pause before responding, the way you disengage without drama, the way you maintain calm regardless of provocation. These moments accumulate, slowly shaping how others perceive and approach you. Toxic people struggle most with consistency. They rely on emotional reactions, on unpredictability, on moments of weakness. When they encounter someone whose responses are measured and unwavering, their influence diminishes. They may test again and again, but each time they encounter the same grounded presence, the same calm refusal to be pulled off center. Consistency also protects your nervous system. You are no longer oscillating between suppression and explosion. You are no longer carrying regret for words spoken in haste. Your energy remains intact because it is not spent correcting the consequences of intensity. Instead, it is preserved through quiet, deliberate alignment. There is a deeper discipline here. Consistency requires patience. It requires resisting the urge to prove yourself. It requires trusting that respect grows through time, not through force. This patience becomes a form of strength. You are no longer dependent on immediate outcomes. You are invested in long-term integrity over time. Something remarkable happens. You no longer need to enforce respect. It is assumed. People argue differently. Conversations soften. Provocations decrease. Not because you demanded change, but because your consistency made disrespect ineffective. And yet, consistency is not rigidity. It is responsiveness without volatility. You remain flexible in form, but firm in principle. This balance allows you to move through changing environments without losing yourself. Respect becomes less about control and more about coherence. As this coherence deepens, another realization emerges quietly. Respect, once stabilized through consistency, creates a natural sorting of relationships. Some people adjust, some drift away. And in this separation, clarity appears. Because when consistency becomes your foundation, you begin to see the final truth of interaction. Those who align remain, and those who cannot leave. And this leads seamlessly into the next understanding. When you value your peace, others adjust or disappear. When you value your peace, others adjust or disappear. Peace is not passive. It is not withdrawal. It is not the absence of conflict. Peace is an active commitment to internal harmony, protected through awareness, boundaries, and choice. When you truly value your peace, It becomes non-negotiable. And this decision quietly transforms every relationship you encounter. Many people say they value peace, yet their actions contradict this claim. They engage in unnecessary arguments. They tolerate repeated disrespect. They explain themselves endlessly. Peace cannot coexist with constant self-betrayal. To value peace is to place it above the need to be right, above the need to be understood, above the need to win. When peace becomes your priority, your behavior changes subtly but decisively. You disengage sooner, you respond less. You choose silence where once you chose explanation. You walk away where once you stayed to endure. These choices are not dramatic. They are consistent, and consistency, as you have learned, reshapes the environment. Others feel this shift immediately. Some sense it as distance, some perceive it as strength, some experience it as rejection. But these interpretations are not your responsibility. When peace is valued, reactions are observed, not managed. You allow others to respond as they will, without adjusting yourself to accommodate the discomfort. Those who respect you adjust, they soften their tone, they respect your boundaries, they meet your calm with calm. Those who relied on access to your energy, however, struggle. They test, they provoke, they attempt to pull you back into familiar dynamics. And when these attempts fail, they drift away. This is not loss, it is alignment. When people disappear, as you value your peace, they reveal that the connection was dependent on your discomfort. Their absence creates space. In that space, your clarity deepens, your energy expands, your life becomes quieter yet richer. Valuing peace also sharpens discernment. You begin to recognize early signs of misalignment. Why? I'll no longer wait for conflict to escalate. You trust your internal signals. You choose distance not as punishment, but as protection. Peace becomes the lens through which every decision is filtered. This commitment transforms self-respect into a lived experience. You no longer speak about boundaries, you embody them. You no longer demand respect, you generate it through alignment. Peace becomes your natural state, not a temporary relief from chaos. And in this state, something profound occurs. You realize that peace is not fragile, it is powerful. It shapes your environment without force. It influences others without persuasion. It protects you without aggression. As people adjust or disappear, the final clarity settles within you. You are no longer defined by reaction, conflict, or endurance. You are defined by alignment. And alignment carries you toward the final realization that completes the journey. Master yourself, and disrespect has nowhere to land. 18. Master yourself, and disrespect has nowhere to land. Mastery is not domination. It is not control over others. It is not the silencing of the world. Mastery is quiet. It is internal. It is precise. To master yourself is to become a place where chaos cannot settle, where disrespect arrives, looks for a reaction, and finds nothing to hold on, where manipulation knocks, but no door opens. Most people believe disrespect comes from others, from their words, from their action, from their intentions. But disrespect does end. OT begin outside. It lands where there is space for it. It survives where there is permission. When you master yourself, permission disappears. Self-mastery begins with awareness, not awareness of others, but awareness of self. You notice your breath before you notice the insult. You feel your body before you feel the urge to respond. You observe the emotion before it becomes action. This pause is not hesitation, it is command. In this pause, you reclaim authorship of your life. You are no longer scripted by provocation. You are no longer predictable to those who seek reaction. Toxic people rely on familiarity. They rely on patterns. They rely on knowing exactly which button to press. Self-mastery erases the buttons. You still feel, you still perceive, but you no longer leak energy. This is not numbness, it is containment. Contained energy becomes strength. Scattered energy becomes weakness. The mastered self does not rush to explain, does not hurry to correct, does not scramble to defend. It stands, it observes, it chooses. Choice is the signature of mastery. When you master yourself, your reactions slow, your voice softens, your presence deepens, and something remarkable happens. Disrespect begins to feel heavy, awkward, out of place. It no longer slides into your nervous system. It no longer echoes in your thoughts. It no longer demands rehearsal your mind at night. It arrives and it leaves. Mastery also dissolves the need to be understood. You realize something fundamental. Understanding from others is optional. Alignment with yourself is essential. When alignment is strong, misunderstanding loses its threat. Judgment loses its sting. Rejection loses its meaning. You stop negotiating your worth. Self-mastery teaches you that peace is not a reward. It is a discipline. You do not earn peace by enduring chaos. You protect peace by mastering response. This mastery is practiced in small moments, in the choice not to reply immediately, the decision to walk away without explanation, in the refusal to replay conversations that steal sleep. Small moments build unshakable ground, and on this ground, respect grows naturally, not because you demand it, not because you enforce it, but because disrespect finds no friction. People may still attempt it, but attempts without impact fade quickly. Those who rely on dominance retreat. Those who rely on access lose interest. Those who seek reaction grow bored. Only those aligned with clarity remain. This is not isolation. It is refinement. Mastery refines your life. It simplifies your interactions. It filters your environment. You stop explaining because explanation weakens mastery. You stop reacting because reaction feeds manipulation. You stop proving because proof invites judgment. You simply are, and being becomes enough. Mastery also reveals compassion, not soft compassion that tolerates harm, but clear compassion that sees suffering without absorbing it. You recognize that toxic behavior is pain-seek. ING control, but recognition does not require participation. You wish them clarity. From a distance, this distance is not cold, it is clean. Clean energy is powerful energy. When you master yourself, your presence changes the room. You do not dominate it, you stabilize it. Silence the room. You feel intentional. Words around you feel measured. Others slow down in your presence because mastery slows time. And in this slowed space, truth surfaces. Truth does not shout. It does not argue. It does not defend itself. It stands. Self-mastery makes truth visible. And when truth is visible, disrespect feels foolish. This is the final realization. You were never meant to fight toxicity. You were meant to transcend it. You were never meant to fix others. You were meant to master yourself. When mastery is complete, disrespect has no entry point, no grip, no echo. It falls away like rain on stone. And as this settles, one final awareness emerges, quiet and absolute. The moment you master yourself, the world adjusts and peace becomes permanent. This entire journey leads to one unshakable truth. Self-respect is not an act, a reaction, or a performance. It is a way of being. When you master your emotions, discipline your inner world, and protect your peace with consistency, toxic behavior loses its power over you. You no longer fight, explain, or prove. You simply stand aligned. And in that alignment, disrespect cannot survive. Some will adjust, some will disappear. Both outcomes are victories. Because the highest form of strength is not controlling others, but governing yourself. When your inner world is ordered, the outer world responds naturally. Calm becomes authority. Silence becomes strength. Presence becomes protection. And from that place, your life no longer reacts to chaos. It moves forward in clarity, dignity, and peace.